get yourself a good group of entrepreneurial girlfriends, because there you can swap stories. You can, have an idea about something that you might not even be thinking about, but they've been there, they've done that, and they're really willing to help you.
So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. I've always believed the mindset that women are so much stronger when we band together. And many times in media, we are meant to believe or told to believe that we are meant to fight each other or compete against each other. And that is just not the case. That's why I love bringing on people like Samantha Tradelius, who is our guest today, who is all about championing women. She has programs not only to help them build business, but also how we can network together and how we can support single mothers in need. So hop on into this conversation, because you will find too how you can help rally around the women around you to not only build your business, but to help lift everyone up. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Call Me CEO. This is your host, Camille Walker. Today we are talking about women, the sisterhood and sistership. I don't know what word was going to come out just now, but it's about sisterhood, you guys. And I'm so excited because Samantha Tradelius is here with us today, and she is a champion of women. That was the word. I was going to say champion and sistership, and it came out sister something. But we are so excited because we're going to talk about all the things today. And Samantha, you heard a little bit more of her formal bio before this, but man, you guys, she has built a company, the commercial coverage insurance company, built it to 8 figures. She also is the author of Stories of Changemakers and the host of InspiHER'd. So that is all about championing women. And I couldn't think of anyone better to come on and talk to us about how when you surround yourself with women that believe in you and in themselves, we literally can change the world. So Samantha, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yes. Hello. We as women can do so much together. And I love that you have a platform to share the stories of us girls.
Yes. I mean, there are so many amazing stories that need to be shared and heard all over the world. I cannot wait for our audience to hear about you and how you got started. So please introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Samantha Tradelius. I have many hats, as you've discussed. The starting point of my life was in insurance, which is, not the most glamorous, sexiest industry, but it has been one that I've been very successful in and I'm very grateful for. And, that started off as a young woman working for my family's licensing school in Encino, California. And one of the teachers not showing up for work one day, and me going in there at age 17, teaching insurance class to a whole bunch of people, not knowing anything about anything, but I knew enough to know that, this put food on my family's table. So, hey, let's figure this out. Which then kind of parlayed into me learning how to sell insurance and then opening up my own agency with my father when I was 23 years old, which then was selling, home and auto insurance and smiling and dialing and building a book of business, which then I kind of organically, if you will, met my husband, who had just literally opened up commercial coverage in his basement. It was him and himself in San Francisco. And that was almost 20 years ago that we met. And he kind of, had his peacock feathers up and was, Mr. Big Shot. And what it really was him and a gateway computer. So together we've built an incredible business over the years of selling commercial property insurance and done a lot with it all over the US, primarily in San Francisco area, Bay Area, but really had a lot of fun with it. And so that's kind of my work side of me. And then, of course, I am an executive director and founder of a nonprofit, which I'm sure we'll tap into later on.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this. Is so interesting to me because I will tell you, from doing over 130 of these interviews, I kid you not, it is the women that will step up into, I knew nothing about anything, but I had this opportunity and I stood up and I did it. What was that moment like for you, knowing that you were in that spot and just deciding to step into it? What did it take from you? And what was your thought process? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I was terrified, right? Because what it was teaching insurance, in the state of California, if you wanted to get your insurance license, as you still do now, you have to do so many hours of licensing. Mm-hmm. And so there was literally probably 75 people in this room. And I just knew I was working in the office at the time, and I knew okay, these people are what honestly pays the bills and puts food on the family's table. So I don't know. I just grabbed a book and went in and opened it up, and I knew enough to talk the talk because I hear people talking. And I made it 2 or 3 hours until they could figure it out and get somebody in there. But I realized that was something I could do, and I enjoyed doing it. It was actually what I put myself through college doing, was teaching exam preps and teaching people how to take their insurance tests, which, over the years, I probably got 5,000 to 8,000 people through their exam, which is a lot of insurance.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, you built this business. First, you partnered with your dad, and then you built the business with your husband. Is this still considered a family business? Are you still working it with your dad, or is that now a separate entity?
So as we'll talk about, I'm sure, motherhood and life changes. I had started the agency Strickler Insurance with my father, and we sold small personal lines and small commercial. And then, of course, I fell in love and met my husband, who happened to live in San Francisco, and I lived in LA. And so those weekends turned into weeks, and somebody had to move. And so I ended up moving to San Francisco and selling my business, a portion, my stock or whatever in the company, to my brother, who then assumed my role within Strickler Insurance. And it is still thriving today, as is the school. They're both still going on, and I'm still involved with both. And then I kind of had some kids. I had 2 girls. And so that kind of took a little bit of time. And then my husband and I, he's the yin to my yang and vice versa. So he's the sales guy, he walks in the room, he's Mr. Charismatic. And I've always been really good with the details and the people and the back end of things. And so together we've made a really great team. And I'm not as super active in the agency anymore. I still do, transact and sell insurance. It's like I told you when we were doing our warm up, that as much as I try to get away from it, I just can't. I have some fantastic clients, and many of them are women that I've watched, their business from that introductory phone call with, hey, I need to get insurance for my space, to, hey, now I'm making millions of dollars, and how cool is this? To be a part of that journey is something that I admire it, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. And so that's why I can't really get out of it, I think, because I love my clients so much. But yeah, I'm still involved, just not as much as I used to be. And it's definitely, one of those things, it's like riding a bike. Once you're in it, you can always do it, and you're always in it. So it is that right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of service-based businesses that many of our listeners maybe have done or are interested in or thinking about, whether it's insurance or real estate or coaching or whatever the business might be. One of the biggest hurdles, I think, is building that book of business. And as a woman, and oftentimes traditionally, the first part of my career, I was in the finance business. I was a mortgage broker, predominantly with men. And I think that as a woman, it can be kind of hard to be put into the bros club and wondering where you fit in. What were some steps that you took when you were first starting out and really not sure where to begin? Did you find alliances to build your business?
Great question, because both of those industries, as I like to say, are very pale, male, and stale, right? Insurance is the worst, right? I would walk into a meeting and I'd be the only woman, and I'd be a young woman, and I'd have my heels and my, blonde hair and my red lips, and people would be like, is your dad coming, or is your boss coming? And I'm like, no, I am the boss.
Yeah.
I think when I started, it was so hard because you just don't have the confidence and obviously the knowledge that you gain 25 years later, where I can walk in now and not even think about it.
Right.
I know the answers, but it was really kind of surrounding myself with the types of clients that I wanted to be around. And I joined a lot of different networking groups when I started originally, and just got to understand business and the different types of businesses. And then when I moved to San Francisco, I did not know anyone except for my husband. And I was just like a fish out of water. And I happened to come across a group of women that had a networking group called Skirts. And Skirts was about, it has an acronym, and it was sharing knowledge, information together. And once a month, these women would meet, and they were all from different walks of the world, all business owners, or had to like hunt their own dinner, if you will.
Yeah.
And we would meet and we would talk about business, talk about life, talk about, what was going on in our personal and professional lives. And through the years, these relationships that were formed were so unbelievable in the growth of, I think, all of us. And so I think the best piece of advice I could get through any woman's mind is like, get yourself a good group of entrepreneurial girlfriends, because there you can swap stories. You can, have an idea about something that you might not even be thinking about, but they've been there, they've done that, and they're really willing to help you. And I think a lot of my success has been absolutely based. I know a lot of my success is based upon solely the women that I've been able to surround myself with. And I still do today. I mean, we're still bouncing ideas all the time and doing a lot of business together.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that for many reasons, because I think, first of all, you had to put yourself out there and find the group, find the resources. I know that there are places that you can search online, whether that's Facebook groups or even your Chamber of Commerce or different things like that. What would your suggestion be for someone starting out scratch, where to find a group like this?
There's so many of them. The chambers are actually really great because a lot of them have within their business, little groups. They have a woman-owned or women entrepreneurial group. There's also, many different cities have different, ladies groups, whether they're the polka dots or they're La Tips or BNI groups. That's honestly where I started. And like I did breakfast every single day or every single month, one Wednesday a month. It was like at 6:30 in the morning. And that was really how I started my business, was making relationships with people that would, feed me business and vice versa. And I also too, like surrounding yourself with the types of people that you want to do business or would be good referral partners. So in our world, we really like to focus on commercial property. So who is dealing with commercial property? That's commercial property real estate agents. That's commercial property lenders. That's property managers. And so those were the spaces that we chose to play in, because those were the people that we could speak the same language. They needed what we had, and we could, refer them clients as well. So that was really a way that we built our business. And it was, very successful because, again, we're all sifting around in the same pain points as, the industry, whatever it is.
Yeah. Now you bring up pain points. What would you say is a time that you learned from a rough time in your business, a pain point? And what advice would you give for someone going through a time like that?
I think that there's so many different pain points, and not even pain points, more like growth points, right? Because if it was super easy, everybody would be doing it. I mean, I can tell you times I've had people steal. I've had people take clients, take money, horrible, really challenging employees, or like losing a deal because like I didn't know what I was doing, or I wasn't fighting hard enough, or I wasn't giving myself enough energy because I thought I wasn't worth it. And like some dude comes in and wins, not because his quote's better, but because he had a better swagger. And I was like, I got to learn a little bit better. And I think, learning how to be strong and how to not take things so personally, because like I'm a very social person, but I'm also like a very logical person. So for me, when someone doesn't like me or I get a feeling like the energy's off, it kind of messes with me a little bit. But then my logical business brain is like, this isn't about you, Samantha. This is business. This isn't personal. Let's just get it done. So I think those little lessons have been incredibly hard. And, not to say I got it all figured out, girl, because I do not.
Yeah. That's so interesting, talking about the swagger. I think that is something that sometimes women have to work harder for, is that natural, like you were talking about with your husband, where it was just him and the computer, but the way that he acted, it was that perception that he had this big book of business or maybe lots of employees. I don't know. But what is that swagger, and how have you been able to develop that as a woman in your field?
I talk about this a lot, and I think it really boils down to understanding your worth, right? And putting your feet in the ground and saying, I am worth it, and here is why, and bringing to the table your services. So in insurance, we're selling a product, but at the end of the day, the guy down the street might have one that's a little bit less expensive, or, he may have a little bit of a different sales pitch. My whole approach was always like, I'm not here to sell you the cheapest insurance. I'm here to cover you in case something happens and it like is the right insurance. So I'm going to be a coverage person, not a price person. Granted, everybody comes to you for price, but the idea of a good salesperson or somebody that knows their stuff is they're able to really educate the client. And again, like nobody knows anything about insurance because nobody wants to know anything about insurance until they need to know. Mm-hmm. And so I really kind of, my worth is my knowledge base and what I can bring to the table. And also having key relationships with my underwriters. So I work a lot middle market. I'm a broker, so I have access to like every carrier under the sun. But I also, work a lot with wholesalers and middle market stuff. So I can pick up the phone. I've been doing this for 20 years and get magic to happen where, when I was 5 years into it, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So I think that part of me having that, a little bit of confidence, so like knowing what I know because I've built these relationships, I think is really helpful. And also just being like a nice person too in the industry is goes a long ways. And I think people forget that sometimes.
Well, speaking of nice person, I think you are one of the nicest. Speaking of your foundation that you built, it's called the Sparkle Foundation to help single mothers. Tell us about that.
Yes. So my grandmother was a single mother in the 1950s, and she was the total inspiration for what is now occurring, now. So when I was 23 selling insurance with my dad, I was like, I wanted to do something good for the world and started like researching charities and like trying to figure out what I wanted to get into. And what I was finding was a lot of these places were not super transparent with the way that money was spent. And it was really like annoying, even at a young age. Like I didn't have any money, but the little money I did have, like I wanted to make sure it went to like help somebody, not buy somebody lunch,
Right.
So what I was finding was not what I wanted. So as with anything, I'm like, I'll just do it myself. Mm-hmm. So I heard about this program with the post office, and it was the Dear Santa program. And what would happen was kids would write letters to Santa, and they would go into like the main postal, distribution center. And you could go give them your ID. They take your fingerprints and make sure you weren't a psycho. And you could pick some kid, 2 or 3 families or whatever you wanted to help. So the first year I went in there, I did 2 families. And then every single year it kind of grew and grew and grew until 2015. I had 17 families we were buying gifts for. I'd raised like $37,000, just me. And basically what I would do is like get to know what they wanted, shoes, bikes, t-shirts, food, whatever the case may be. And then I would go back to my clients, my friends, my family, anyone with a pulse and say, yo, this is what I need. Let's do this. And we would buy it, wrap it, and then go deliver it. And so this was like go year after year, it was growing and growing. And they were always single moms, just as like this like subconscious thing, which I didn't realize until later on, right before my grandmother's death, that like I was doing it because of her and like the stories I would hear when I was young about the way that my dad was brought up, my aunt was brought up, and her being the single mom working 3 jobs, and being totally on her own. And it was such a like underserved community, and I knew we could be impactful. So yeah, in 2015, I filled out all these papers, decided like maybe it would be a little bit more effective if I was a legit nonprofit, not like I needed another job. Because at that point I had like the full on insurance gig, 2 kids, a husband, life was full enough. But I thought if I could do more and serve more, then it made sense. So I did it. I got the paperwork out. It took 6 months to get it done. It was like such a big process. Mm-hmm. And Sparkle was born 7 years later. Here we are. And we just cleared, I think we have brought in $1.8 million over the last 7 years and given it 100% all back out to the community, which is pretty amazing.
Oh my gosh. That is so cool. Wow. That is so inspirational to think about what one person can do and then taking it to that next level and being committed to giving back. That's really inspirational.
Thank you. It's feel good.
Yeah. I want to hear about the book that you recently wrote called Stories of Change Makers. What inspired you to do that?
Well, I turned 40 in 2020, the COVID year, right?
Okay.
So of course we're all sitting at home trying to figure out who we are and what we're going to do with our lives.
Yeah.
So turning 40 was kind of like this major moment, and I really was like looking and reflecting because I had all kinds of time. And thinking about who I am is only based upon all these wonderful women in my life. And so these women that were so impactful in my upbringing, whether that was my mom, my grandmother, women I sparkle with, women that I look up to as mentors. And so it kind of started off as this thing I did for Women's Month on Facebook. Like each day I would just post women that are impactful. And it was like a picture of them and a little blurb. And so as I started doing this, about 2 weeks into it, I was like, I think this could be a book. Oh, yeah. And so that's what I did. I turned my little 30 days of stories into a hard copy book called Impact. And it's the stories of change makers and just everyday women that are doing big time things.
That's amazing. Now, with all of these different projects that you've done through your life, there's a big thread here of sisterhood and women supporting other people and making change. What would you say if someone was listening to this and wanting to maybe find a tribe of women outside of business, but their own support system? What has been really helpful with you in maintaining those relationships?
Making the effort, like taking the time to text someone and say, hey, how are you? Or, hey, would you like to grab coffee? Or, if I'm having, women, we operate so different, and we operate on this way of like, it's about relationships and nurturing. So when I go into like a business situation, like I'm not going in to close a deal. I'm going in to like get to know somebody and understand who they are and what their needs are. And it's the same thing with Sparkle or anything I really do. It's, we build and we grow based off relationships. So when you're out there looking for, it's not that you're looking for friends or connections. You're just really looking to kind of put yourself out there and find like-minded people. And believe me, they're attracted to you as you are them. And so if there's somebody that you admire, you think's great. Like I just went to this event up in Vancouver a couple weeks ago. And this woman she was a keynote speaker, and she's this big deal CEO of this like Canadian jewelry company. And she is magnificent. And, probably 20 years ago, I would have never walked up to her and introduced myself and said, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. But one of her lines was that she gave everybody a pair of earrings, and then they gave everybody another pair of earrings to gift to another woman. And she asked everybody to hashtag follow your sparkle. And I thought, well, I got to go, I got to meet this woman, right?
Yeah.
So I walked right up to her and I handed her my business card. I said, I don't know, who you are, or I don't know anything about what goes on here in Canada, but I'm loving it. I love you. And I just wanted to come and introduce myself. And so the moral of the story is like, don't be afraid to go and introduce yourself and just say hi. Because guess what? You may be fostering and growing a great new relationship that you may not even realize.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's a lot of power in that bravery, just like you stood up in that class and started teaching. So much of our connection takes that moment of bravery to just step into, I think it's the fear of rejection, of what could happen. What's the worst that could happen? Well, maybe it's not a lifelong friend, but I've never had someone come up to me and introduce themselves or extend a hand of friendship and thought, how dare they? No, of course, right? You're always thinking like, how flattering. And I would love to get to know you better. And it's always a wonderful thing to have that brought out to you. So I think that is such a good reminder that beautiful things can grow from simple introductions like that.
And women, we love to help each other, so I can't tell you, I get asked a lot with like, I'll get people reach out to me and say, hey, what do I do to start a nonprofit? Or what do you think I should do? Or what do you think about this? And I'm so excited to get to share what I think about it, or what I would do, or if I could do it differently now. I mean, I've already kind of earned my tiger stripes. So let me share with you how to not make the same mistakes I did. I mean, that's the beauty of women. We're excited to do that for each other.
Yeah. Now, you're a mother of 2 girls, ages 10 and 12, which are such formative years. I mean, they all are, but you're really getting into that tween teen age. What is it that you hope to your girls learn from watching you and what you're building?
Great question. If they don't break me, what I hope that they develop, no, it's an amazing time. And it's such an important time because you're really watching them become these little beings that I think when like we were growing up, I mean, I remember my mom always being super involved in my life, but not at the level I think that like parents are now. Like, we were outside till dark, right?
Right.
We weren't driving all around and doing all this crazy stuff because it just was a different time. But I really make it a point to include my girls in every single thing I do. So whether it's stuffing backpacks for, the back to school drive, or wrapping gifts, or going shopping. Or this year, my daughter, who's 12, is now old enough to like help me with some of the computer work. So I had her printing off spreadsheets and inputting information and responding to emails. And I think not only is it kind of teaching them about, obviously doing good feels good, but also like what it takes to run a business. Because even though it is a nonprofit, it's still a business, and I run it as such. Even though I don't get paid, it's my, my unpaid job. But it's still, there's emails and this and that and checks and all these different things that have to happen. So for them, I think it's a really great, legacy that they'll be able to keep going if they choose to, because they're, as I was with my parents working in the office and could learn how to sell insurance and teach insurance class, they'll be able to hopefully, parlay that and maybe continue on with the nonprofit if they desire. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that is a perfect way of involving your children in something that you're passionate about. I think that more often than not, as a mom who is running a business from home, or, where you're doing this nonprofit and all the other pieces that you're doing, if they see the why and they're a part of the process and they get to see the magic that comes from what you're building, I think that those are life lessons that they'll take with them throughout their entire lives. Like that is such an incredible
100%.
example.
And my mom was a nurse in the operating room. And my mom hustled. She worked hard. She took graveyard call so that she could be home for us when we got home from school. And then there'd be days like she wouldn't sleep for 36 hours, but like she'd still show up for the brownie meeting. And so I think so much of who I am is because of watching my mom and my dad. I mean, they were both really hardworking, entrepreneurs and individuals. And so I think we don't think that they watch us, but they totally watch us and they really observe. And I think that's how they will move, hopefully when they get to be of age and have to be a grown up.
Yeah. Well, that's so true. Well, this has been such a wonderful experience interviewing you. I'm going to give you a couple fire rapid questions to share a little bit about more of what you do. So first question, what is your favorite episode that you have done on your podcast so far? InspiHER'd.
It was interesting. There's a lot of them, but one of them I really liked, which is just absolutely so important, is we interviewed the Moms Demand Action women that are, about gun violence and mothers preventing. And it's so timely because we just yet again had another situation.
Jeez, yeah.
And the point being that like even little you can make a difference, and how we can all really stand up and power change. And I really enjoy talking to these change makers and these women that are involved in different pursuits, because we really do make a difference when we stand up and band arms. And I always go back to those episodes. I really love them because I feel like they inspire one person to get out there and do a little something.
Yeah. Ooh, I got to listen to that. You'll have to let us know what episode that is. We'll make sure to put that in the notes.
Yes.
What is your favorite book for business development?
Good to Great.
Love that one. Why do you love it?
I don't know. I just think it's kind of an interesting approach. And I think that it really kind of sets the stage for like the mindset that you want to have. Another one I really love is Raving Fans, which is about, have you ever read that one?
I've heard of it. I haven't read that one.
It's an easy read. We actually make all of our staff before they come on read it. And it's just about, the premise is like basically knowing what you're good at, knowing what your customer wants, and then also giving them that +1 added experience, which is such an easy win all the time. So I would actually say Raving Fans over Good to Great.
Okay.
Now that I think about it.
All right. We'll make sure to link to that too. What is your favorite thing to do with your family when it's off hours?
Go to the beach.
Oof. I am so jealous. You guys, we just got
such a
12
beach girl.
inches of snow yesterday. So I'm like, give me the beach. That's so fun.
Yes.
What is your favorite place that you've ever been to in the world?
Paris.
Why?
It's magic.
I've never been.
I'm 42 years old, and I just went this last year in September, and I was like, why have I never been here before? It is everything you think it is times 10. It is just unbelievable. It's breathtaking.
That's amazing. What's your favorite bit of advice that you've ever received from your mother?
Always be able to stand on your own 2 feet.
That is very telling of what you've just told us about her.
Yeah. You always need to be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. What is your favorite song and why?
You're All I Need to Get By Aretha Franklin.
Ooh.
And I love it because at different times it can mean different things. It can mean that you just need a little hope, or you need a little faith, or you need a little love, or you need to push a little harder. But Aretha is she's something else. So that's always on my playlist, and it comes on all the time when I need it.
Ooh, I love it. I'm going to check that one out for sure. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you for being on the show today. And please tell our audience where they can find more of you.
Yes, I think if you just go to my website, it's samanthатradelius.com. You can find out about the book, the podcast. I also have an S-list, a little blog that I post about female she brands that I love. So it's just another way to support women. And that's probably the best place.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for championing women. I feel like you are doing so many incredible things, and I can't wait to learn more about you.
You're amazing. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I would love to hear more about your Sparkle Biz loan program that you have specifically set up for women.
Yes. So in addition to our holiday gift drive and our other gifting experiences, the microloan program is specific to single moms. And the idea being that you are a woman that is in need of some operating capital. So our loans are $5,000 to $15,000. They are interest-free, paid back within 18 to 36 months. And additionally, in addition to the money, you get mentorship. So we funded our first one in 21, and we had a woman that we took on who needed some help with operating systems and like business acumen, back end stuff. She was really awesome. She had a successful business, but really needed a little bit of push. So we were able to give her $10,000. And with that, we were able to plug a whole bunch of holes for her with systems and accounting and all the different things. She was able to open a second location and hire like 6 women and provide jobs in her community. And almost we have, I think, 2 more payments, and then we'll be paid up on that loan and ready to fund out. I think maybe this probably May, June of this year, 2023, we'll be looking for our next recipient. So if you know someone that may be interested, you can go to sparklebiz.org and you can apply right then and there. We ask for a little bit of the story. We're really looking for someone that has a business idea that's either, operating, or like, we're not looking to create your business plan. We want you to come to us with a business plan. And we kind of want to learn a little bit about what you need the money for. And we're not your traditional lender in a sense, to where we're not looking for credit or, any of that kind of stuff. We're really kind of going off of, your grit. We're going to look into some stuff, but the bigger decider is, do you have what it takes to get to the next level, and how can we help you get there?
Ooh, that is so cool. What an awesome opportunity. We'll make sure to link to that below so that if you are interested or you know someone who might be, you can snag this opportunity and create new businesses for women. I love that so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at Call Me CEO Podcast on Instagram, and please leave a 5-star rating and review. Anytime you share this podcast, it will help us to grow and help more women to grow their businesses. I appreciate you, and I will see you next week. Hey CEOs, thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please let me know in a comment and a 5-star review. You could have the chance of being a featured review on an upcoming episode. Continue the conversation on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast. And remember, you are the boss.